Welcome back to the series on the WebSphere application server platform. I am your host, Stephen Colello. I work for IBM. I'm a worldwide application infrastructure specialist. And today we're going to focus on a very critical topic, that being performance. I think many people out there, they would not argue that performance has got to be one of the more crucial and critical factors when we're looking at application server to run our enterprise applications. However, I will say that depending upon who I'm talking to, really depends upon their outlook around performance. So for example, when I'll talk to, let's say, enterprise application developers or some enterprise application architects, and I'll say and make the claim that WebSphere is one of the highest performing application servers in the market, they might just look at me and say that cannot be true. And then I'll ask them why, and they'll say, well, WebSphere takes over 4 minutes to start up on my server, and it loads a lot of resources. It cannot, be one of the highest performing application servers in the market. And so I want you to understand that when most enterprises, or when enterprises are looking at the platform to run their enterprise applications, when they're talking specifically about performance, they're looking for a platform that can scale out over across a number of different cores, a number of different machines, running tens and dozens of different applications in a highly clustered environment and processing tens of thousands of transactions per second. And that's what IBM WebSphere, that's what we focus on, these production enterprise systems. So if you look at, this is one of our marketing slides all around performance. And it's very clear performance is important, especially when we talk about response times and user requests and stuff like that. But what a lot of people don't understand is when you're talking about the total cost of computing, performance is extremely critical, right? The better performing platform you run, the less processors you're going to need, the less administration for those processors and applications you're going to need, the less power and cooling costs. And now we're seeing, energy being a concern for everybody. Everyone knows that energy is going to consistently and continually increase, so energy is becoming a concern and a factor here, and performance is something that can directly reduce all of this cost for you. Now, as you can see from this slide, right, you see IBM is a leader in this area of performance, but you might ask yourself, well, where does this all come from? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a look at the Spec-J benchmark, and this is on spec.org. This is the Java App Server performance benchmarking, and this is probably one of the key benchmarks that we get this from. Okay, so if we scroll down to IBM, you will see that the WebSphere application server version 7, our latest version, did over 22,000 jobs per second over 128 cores. Now, that is a tremendous feat. Now, some might say, whoa, it took 128 cores to do 22,000 jobs per second. Let's say you needed all those cores in order to perform that well. Okay, no, WebSphere will perform very well standalone, but this is actually tremendous. Okay, what this is, this shows that when you run an application in a highly clustered environment, you have to make all of those application resources highly available. So in the event of any server crashing, any other application running on any other server can pick up the work from that crashed server and continue on as if nothing failed. Okay, in doing this and making all these resources highly available, copying all these resources, when you start spanning over many and multiples of cores, your performance will actually eventually reach a threshold and start to decrease. So the fact that we were able to be in a highly clustered, highly scaled environment over 128 cores and still perform at 22,000 jobs per second is just a tremendous feat. We've been, we're always one of the leaders on the Spec-J, sometimes the leader on the Spec-J. This is public information that you can go out and you can review and look over yourself, of course, when you're making application server purchase decisions. I hope this has helped you, and I look forward to our next session. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.